Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast, and we've got an unbox and review for you today. We are going to be looking at the upcoming Kickstarter from Waia Games, The Misunderstood Boys, which is a chunky mix of a Dark Elf team with their new scale High Elf team added as well. Now, we're very lucky. We've got the models to look at, and we've got the Kickstarter preview to look at as well. So, let's jump into the Kickstarter and then have a look at the goods. Okay, so this is a Kickstarter preview. Some things may change, but it's a really good way to kind of get to grips with what the levels are likely to be. So this is for, well, it's for this team. It is for a Dark Elf team, but within it, there are a couple of options. There's one Dark Elf team with two different styles of blitzers. Now, we'll have a look at this in a second, but you've got the kind of Malekith Dark Elf Prince. If you're an old school Warhammer player, then this is kind of that style. Okay, the Dark Elf Noble, your Dark Elf Prince, they've got twisted horns. They look regal but evil, probably the best way to describe them. There's that team where their blitzers are that way inclined. There's also, and I love that they've done this, they've got an alternative version of the team. The core team is the same, but the blitzers are Corsairs. So they've gone with the Dark Elf Corsair motif, where you've got the dragon skin cloaks and stuff like that. So there's kind of two slightly different versions of the Dark Elf team here. And they've also got their new version of their High Elf team in the new scale as well, available to order at the bottom of the Kickstarter. So you've kind of got a couple of cool Dark Elf teams here and a High Elf team. Let's go through the Kickstarter and actually have a look at some of the stuff, because the sculpts for this team are beautiful. Now, a couple of things to mention when it comes to Waia Games. They are a resin manufacturer. They produce their models by resin casting, and they do an outrageously good job of it. They use their own kind of resin mix here that used to be called Morgcast. They've upgraded it to Waia Classic, and honestly, it is some of the most crisp and durable resin casting I have ever seen. Miniature manufacturing these days has really taken up a notch, even over the last 4 years. The casting that these guys have been doing since their first Kickstarter, which was the Pandemic Army, the Nurgle team and that stuff, their resin casting has been brilliant. And these models are all, generally speaking, one-piece models. One-piece casting with this level of sculpting, and it's actually durable and crisp. It is phenomenal. They've got a good little bit here about how they do their process, which I really like as far as miniature companies come. And here we go. So as we delve into the Kickstarter, we enter the Kingdom of the Elves. Now, this is the High Elf team that they've already kickstarted, but they've boosted up the scale. It was true scale, and now it's halfway between true scale and Games Workshop scale. So basically, you've still got that otherworldly height of the models, but there's just a bit more of a Games Workshop-y chunk to them, which works brilliantly. And the Dark Elf team is very much in line with that scale. And we've got some brilliant sculpts here. So there's some assassins in this pack. You've got two different assassins there, and I love the style that they've gone to. The face mask with the skull, and they've done a beautiful job of getting painted versions of this. We don't always see this in Kickstarters. It's a lot of renders, and here's some physical models. They've taken the time to get them out to people, to get the models professionally painted, and they're beautiful, which is a really good way to gauge, actually, how your team's going to look on the pitch. And you can start seeing some of these models. So they've got two assassins in the kit. You've got two witch elves in the kit as well, which, I mean, look at the face detail. Like, beautiful paint job. It's one of the first things that kind of flicked. I was like, ooh, great sculpts. And just the painting's really good as well. But you've got two classic witch elf models. The High Elf team they produced was straight out of 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy. It's classic High Elves. The Dark Elves are also straight out of Warhammer Fantasy Battle 6th edition. So 12-year-old Ben is like, hey, I had these on the Warhammer pitch. That's how much Blood Bowl I play on the Warhammer field. Love the sculpts of these guys, and really impressive job. And then we get to the blitzers. Now, like I mentioned, there's two style of blitzers for you to choose for your team. And this is the chaosy, kind of the evil version, the one that I kind of think of the Dark Elf Prince Malekith, because they've got the twisted horns. This is like your Black Prince stuff, and I really love it. They are definitely the stars of the team, but it definitely blends into the Dark Elf theme, and there's 4 different sculpts. There's a cool, like, this is what I love about third-party teams, is when you get a model, any one of these models, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's cool. I could use that as a star player in my team. I could use that as a star player in my league. And you just, the fact that each of the models is individual and has got a slightly different posing, slightly different armor, they build up that character to them. And you guys know that when you're playing Blood Bowl, your players pick up character, whether they just keep failing or just keep succeeding, or you're actually playing league with them and they do in fact level up and get that character. It's wicked. And I like they've gone with a mixture of male and female players here as well, which is really, really, really cool. Blitzer 4, I think they've even got a 5th Blitzer as an additional option too. So you've got all the Blitzers there, and like I said, you've got, that's the kind of first style. And then you've got the runners, because it's a Dark Elf team, and this face sculpting is excellent. These guys look like elves. They look like pirate elves. This is just exactly what you want Dark Elves to be. So loads of dynamism in there, great work on the face sculpts, and a nice mix of player types, which I think is really cool. So 2 great runners, 4 great blitzers, we still got the other 4 to look at, 2 witch elves, 2 assassins, and a ton of brilliant linemen. And okay, we've got the kind of agile elf thing here, where there's not a ton of armor on their midriff or legs. It's kind of how Dark Elves roll, but you've got the spiky shoulder pads, and you've got that helmet with the crest. Now, as far back as, I don't know, maybe 4th edition, when they had the Dark Elves, you had that, and then you went into the first maybe edition of Blood Bowl, definitely 2nd edition. The Dark Elves had that pointy bit at the front there, and it's actually stayed true with their design, whether it was the old plastic Dark Elves or whether it was kind of the revamped multi kit they did. It's just a classic Dark Elf design status, and the fact that you got a ton of different linemen with the little poses is really, really good too. So you're going to flex out your team. I think they got 6 different line positionals, lineman sculpts, which fills out. Okay, now we kind of get to grips with how much the team is likely to be. So at €65, 6 linemen, 4 blitzers, 2 witch elves, 2 runners, 2 assassins. So that is what, 16 players there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 players. Okay, so each individual sculpts, and you maxed out your roster there. There's some early bird bits, there's some stretch goals, and then you get the turn marker, the reroll marker, and you get a Davy the Kraken, which is a star player, which we'll come to at the end. So that is the misunderstood Sons. There are also, which is this team here, and I love that they've got shots of the actual models, because let me tell you, they are very nice models. And then we've got the alternative blitzers. Now this is the Corsair version, and you can see you've got the kind of nautical motifs in that. You've got like the Kraken head, you've got the style of helmet lines up with the Dark Elf Corsairs, and apparently they're all into Taekwondo, which is pretty cool. I love the alternate designs. I don't know which I would choose. This really does smack of the Corsairs from Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but I like the Dark Prince version. Better. Anyway, the Corsairs one is also €65. It's the same kit, just with the Corsair blitzers instead, which I really like. And as an early bird, you do get an extra blitzer in there as well, so I guess you can kind of flex and choose your favourite sculpts. So there you go, €65 for a 16-man team. Well, it's actually 17 plus stretch goals because it's Kickstarter. You're going to get a uniquely designed Dark Elf team. And then this is Kickstarter, right? So there's a ton of stretch goals in here as well. You've got markers, you've got cheerleaders, we've got Davy the Kraken, which I think as we scroll down, you can see that they've actually gone ahead and produced all of this already. The cheerleader's great, and Davy the Kraken there. Tiff and I have started watching Pirates of the Caribbean again, so at some point we're going to meet this guy in that movie. And you've got the Corsair cloak, you've got that kind of tentacly face, which when and if we see Loki Felhart return to Blood Bowl, this will be absolutely perfect for that. And as add-ons, this model is a model that I need to purchase because it looks like Malekith on the pitch, which is so sweet. The Emperor, for €5 you can get him. You've got cheerleaders there, and they've kitted out. You've got the Bloodweiser Babe, you've got the Sorceress, and they've just got a ton of extra models and some kind of classic star player there. Elijah, not Doom, but Wood. You've got Rosa Blackclaws. You've got a bunch of cool star players here that are just really great models. And they've gone so far to include a really big version of the Kickstarter that includes all of the star players as well, which is the big bundle for 165, which is all of those star players and a full team. And they just absolutely pound it through with a ton of stuff. So if you want a team, it's 65 euros. If you want everything, it's 165 euros. And then I would definitely recommend you having a look at the High Elf team as well. We've seen this, we've done a review video for it. The upscaling of the High Elves has been done beautifully. So there's a great High Elf team in there as well for 65 euros. And they've done a great job here with the scale comparison. I should have hunted this down before I did the High Elf video. Otherworldly, true scale, you've got this kind of weird alien height. They've beefed them up and it looks perfect on the Blood Bowl pitch. They've nailed this transition. They've kept the style. They've kept the kind of just elements of the team. Like, its thing is that they are thin fairy folk, but now they're suitable for the Blood Bowl pitch in every single way. So absolutely love that. They've got some great sculpts for the High Elf team, but you guys are not here for the High Elf team, although I do strongly recommend you have a look at it. You're here for the Dark Elves. So let's open up the box and see what is inside. So we've already seen that these models are resin cast. So with resin models, you want to wash them before painting them, before priming them, because release agent can ruin your attempts to prime sometimes. Now, if these are anything like the High Elf models, which I think they are, oh, I love a bit of polystyrene peanut noise. That's going to go good on the YouTube there. However, has done a good job of keeping all the models from being damaged. And, you know, if the world ends and I need a way to quickly make some napalm, that's that. Let's pop that to one side. So this is our preview kit here, and normally I'd have them lined out and prepped, but I was too excited and wanted to open them up because the Kickstarter page makes these models look so good, and as we can open them and start looking at these models, we can see how crisp that casting is. Look at that. So in the Kickstarter article on the Kickstarter page, they talk about how they introduce ink into their resin, and that how some colors can be lighter, some can be darker. This is a darker shade of resin, and it does such a good job of highlighting the crisp edges that have been cast here. Look at that. You can see the skull face immediately. There's a bit of dusting there from the packaging material, but, you know, like I said, you want to kind of give them a bit of a lukewarm wash anyway to make sure you've got anything off there. Get a big old dry brush in and just clean it up a bit. But, I mean, the casting is crisp as you like. This is perfect. So this is one of the assassins, and I tell you what, because it is the model that stood out to me the most as we opened the box, we'll start our size comparisons here. So this is a Games Workshop Dark Elf, mostly built from the Dungeon Bowl kit, and here is a Waia Games Dark Elf Assassin. Let's do a size comparison. So the assassin is crouching down, and I will do my best to keep my big chubby man hands out of the shot as much as possible. There we go. He's crouching. Size-wise, it lines up nicely. He's a little bit smaller than the Dark Elf because he's crouching down. Look at the work on that cloak. The fur bit there, the knife. Yeah, size-wise, I think you would agree. It's about right. Definitely a little bit, well, I'll say not even a little bit thinner. Because if you look at the Dark Elf's arm here, you know, it's a bit chonked up by the big poofy kind of sleeve is the word I'm looking for, and actually they've got the scale about right, haven't they? This is superb. Anyway, assassin definitely passes the first test, and who is up next? Let's go for the Dark Elf, Witch Elf here. So in a bit of a crouch pose with the blades there that you expect from the Witch Elves, obviously keeping them away from the referee by hiding them behind a back, which is very appropriate for Blood Bowl. We will get a standing model in a second, but when they're glued on the base, that is going to line up absolutely perfectly with the Games Workshop team. The thing is, the Games Workshop teams are so ubiquitous because they're just everywhere that they've become the benchmark for scale. So they're the most frequent team to be lined up against. So let's grab a standing model. reasonably standing. There we go. So this is one of the linemen, and you can see again this grey resin does a great job of catching the edges of the cast, so you get all that detail on there. This is brilliant. This is really well cast, and I tell you what, it feels like the sturdiest of resin. I print a lot of stuff, as you guys know, and it feels, you know, the 3D printed stuff, it feels a little risky. This is tough. I mean, I'm trying not to break the model on video, but I mean, I wasn't gentle with it. There we go. Look at the size comparison there. So actually a little bit taller than the Dark Elf and a little bit slighter, but that is absolutely what they're going for from a design aspect. But if you look at the mass, if you look at the overall kind of impact that this player is going to have on the pitch, then I think it lines up perfectly. This is excellent. I'm really excited about this. And I think we've got one of the blitzers here. Okay, cool. So we've got the Dark Elf Prince, the Dark Prince style, the Malekith style blitzers. And there's a little bit of polystyrene, I think, on there, or a little bit that needs to be cleaned up. But these are straight out of the box because I like I said, I haven't done any kind of prep, any kind of tidying. Oh, that's so sharp. Look at that. That is really nicely cast. And up against the... Yeah, all right, brilliant. I like this. I like what I'm seeing here. So this guy is a bit taller than the Games Workshop guy, as you would kind of expect. And from a mass point of view, if we put him down on the table against the Dark Elf lineman, he is a little bit slighter, again, as you'd expect. So I think we can pretty much say that the scale is nailed. What they want, that kind of slight move towards true scale from heroic scale, is bang on the money, and the proportions look perfect. The casting is perfect. The sculpting we've seen is lovely. And I really, really like that model there. I'm just going to do a little check some of the other models, because you can see the casting quality is so good. We've got one of the runners here as well, which is very dynamic. So this is the Gentleman Runner. And, I mean, we saw the face detail, didn't we, when we were looking through the Kickstarter page. And even from this, where I haven't got the camera dialed in as much as I would like, you can see that face detail there is just beautifully captured. There are some really good painters that are going to love this kit, because the detail is there. And I am a bit of a lazy boy, so I'm personally not going to be too fussed about that level of detail. But knowing that a little dry brush, that a bit of Agrax is going to bring out the detail, because it is there, because it is that crisp, makes me very happy. Now, okay, so the majority of these models are in one piece, but there is in fact one model to build, so you do feel like you've built a kit there, and it's got a nice plug and play element. Oh, there we go. Slipped straight in, and there is the other runner. Probably should use glue when it comes to resin models. And I mean, there's just so many great sculpts to choose from. These linemen are brilliant. They've got so much character. I'm really enjoying the blitzer models too. This one here, the female blitzer with the kind of executioner style mask, so cool. Actually really, really, really impressed with all of these models. And there you have it. Waia Games, Misunderstood Boys / what's the Misunderstood Sons is the kind of the two different teams. I'm super impressed with this. I'm super chuffed with this. The move to kind of semi-true scale is brilliant. It brings them way into line with Blood Bowl characters, but they do such a good job of remaining that kind of that tall litheness and that true scale element to the team, while remaining the same kind of size as Blood Bowl models. They're not smaller than the Games Workshop ones. What they are is better. They're better sculpted. They look more realistic, and they have done a beautiful job. And I'm super impressed with the casting quality. The sculpting's obviously beautiful, right? Obviously beautiful. But being able to produce models in one piece with this level of dynamism is potentially sorcery, actually, because none of these positionals make me think, oh, I wish they were more dynamic, I wish they had more movement going to them. And if you think about it, like, we've got this model here that is in one piece, and this model here that was in 8. It's just phenomenal to see what they're able to do with this material. They've done a super good job. The sculpting's beautiful, the character is beautiful, and the executioner The execution is as flawless as I wish my English was. Anyway, Waia Games have done another beautiful team for Blood Bowl, and we are feeling very spoilt in 2022 because there are some great teams out, and Waia Games just keeps pumping them out. So good to see. Anyway, Kickstarter will be live soon, if it's not live right now, and I wholeheartedly recommend that you check it out. Anyway, let me know what you think of the team in the comments below, and we'll be back again soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.